Welcome to The Growth Show with me as your host, Joe Camerato. I am an entrepreneur who created my company, National Business Capital, from literally $0 out of my spare bedroom to over $2 billion in business loans secured for entrepreneurs nationwide. Since 2007, I have seen just about every type of business. I provide money and help entrepreneurs access capital to scale fast, but I also know that it's possible for you as you scale to replace yourself, to build systems, processes, and great teams of people that can live on without you so you can actually enjoy your life and your company can still grow. I will not only tell you the peaks and valleys of my story, but I will also bring on world-class entrepreneurs to tell their stories and share their lessons on their growth journeys. Welcome to The Growth Show. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining The Growth Show with me as your host, Joe Camerato. On the show today, we've got an awesome entrepreneur that's made it happen in the short-term rental game. I'm really excited to have on Avery, the CEO and founder of the Short Term Shop, who's a rock star real estate investor. Thanks for being on today, Avery.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So, tell me a little about yourself and when did you get started in the short-term game? It was definitely a while back, right?
Yeah. So, first of all, I am a real estate investor. I've got 245 doors currently. 8 of them are short-term rentals. I was able to get from 0 to 245 over the course of about 5.5 years because 5 of my first 6 investments were short-term rentals. And because they cash flow so much heavier than traditional long-term rentals, I was able to grow that portfolio much more quickly. Wow. I bought my first one in 2015. And that's, back then there weren't all of these influencers and all of these courses and all of this stuff to make it really easy. We kind of had to figure it out for ourselves on how to self-manage these things remotely. And we focus on buying our short terms in true vacation markets. So, we're not going into random cities and random like suburbs and urban areas and buying houses that used to be primary homes that are just like in neighborhoods. We focus on areas where it's always been short-term rentals, like Destin, Florida, where I live. Everything here has been a short-term rental since the 30s. So areas where there's, it's not a new thing, it's very established, and there's very little friction in terms of anti-short-term rental regulations.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess that's important, especially nowadays. And especially, I'm from New York, so especially what's happened here in New York with regulation around that in the city, it's definitely pretty wild. What's really cool is you kind of got fed up with the corporate life and, threw in the towel and made a move. When did you, finally make that move? Did you, buy your first property? Or are you still working? Talk me through how you got started.
Yeah. So in 2013, my husband Luke and I were moving from New York City to Nashville. And at the time, Nashville was affordable. Nashville's not all the New Yorkers moved in, and it's no longer affordable. But at the time,
somebody, it's crazy.
Nashville is only I lived in both New York and LA, and I loved it, and I loved the people in both of those places in their natural habitats. But then coming home to the South where I'm from, and all of the people from New York and LA, then moving to Nashville for music careers and now pretending to be Southern, annoys me to death. So I had to move out of Nashville. But
that's great.
Yeah. So, but we moved there in 2013, and I was in the music business, and our agent at the time was really trying to get us to buy in this super hip, fast appreciating part of Nashville, East Nashville, the Williamsburg of Nashville. And we were like, no, we're moving from New York to Tennessee. We want to move out in the country. We don't want any neighbors. We used to have first floor Steve and second floor Steve that would yell at us all the time for wearing our boots in the house and bothering them underneath us. They were both named Steve. We don't want that anymore. And so we bought something out in the country, and then we thought, man, that sounds pretty good that she was saying people are making $65,000 in a year on the appreciation, which, little did we know 2021 was around the corner, that kind of appreciation. But we thought, well, maybe let's buy one of those houses. We have a little money left, and then we'll rent it out so we're not having to pay for it. And then when our future kids go to college, we can just sell it and we can pay for their college out of that appreciation rather than out of our pockets. And we thought we were like these geniuses that nobody ever thought of this before. Didn't know it was called real estate investing, nothing. So we bought a house Had no idea what we were doing, but luckily it ended up being a really good one, really good deal. And it was cash flowing $1,000 a month. And my paycheck at work was about $1,000 a month. I was getting 500 like every 2 weeks because, the music business in Nashville, like they don't pay you much at all because there's always interns willing to do it for free.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yep.
we're like, man, we just doubled what my income is for not having to sit in an office all day. Let's buy more of these. And so then we actually started reading books and listening to podcasts and educating ourselves on the giant investment we just made. And we had, again, just a little bit of money left. And we said, well, what can we buy that's going to make us the most amount of money the fastest so that we can then go buy more of these faster? And we
Smart.
landed on short-term rentals, but Nashville is just very anti short-term rental. They don't want it there. And we couldn't afford to buy something and then in 2 years be told we can't do it anymore. So we said, well, where can we go that this is the normal thing to do, to just stay in a house rather than a hotel? And we'd just been on vacation to the Smoky Mountains where we'd stayed in a cabin. All the other tourists were staying in cabins, and we figured somebody owns these cabins. Why can't it be us? So we bought one. Long story short, figured out how to manage it remotely because at the time, the standard property management split for short-term rentals in the Smokies was 40% of your gross. And there would be no point to that. Might as well go buy a long-term for paying that much. So we figured out how to manage it remotely, scaled one of those to 5 over the course of the next year and a half, and the rest is kind of history.
That's amazing. And it's amazing too. It was really before, like you were saying, when you start talking, like, there's so much focus on this now, courses and influencers, and everyone makes it seems like it's so easy, which it's definitely not. But it's wild that you were really, kind of ahead of your time there. And it's cool that you've also, so I guess you've combined some traditional investing and long-term rentals along with short-term, which I think is probably a really cool strategy for some consistency, I would guess, right?
Yeah. So our goal was never to have like 1,000 short-term rentals. Remember, we started with a long-term and we bought the short-term so we could go buy multifamily. And so now we have 8 short-term rentals total, and they generate enough cash flow for us to go buy, depends on who you're talking to about whether you call them small or medium-sized multifamilies, but we've got everything. We've got several 12 units. We've got a 50 unit, a couple 20, 30 units. So it was never our goal to have 1,000 short-term rentals. You don't need 1,000 to get enough cash flow to just go use it for whatever you want to use it for to grow your portfolio. There are people out there who will say, that they get all kinds of partners and all kinds of things and scale to 100 short-term rentals, but it's like, why? You don't need to. You can make enough money. If you're not making enough money off of 10 to go buy a bunch of passive stuff, you're doing something wrong. So we like to just have a diverse portfolio. And then, COVID was a really good example of that. When the first shutdowns happened, we had 5 short terms and about 20 long terms. And we were like, man, there go the short terms. Thank goodness we have these long terms. We're so smart. And then actually it was the opposite that we had to worry about. The short terms boomed. We were getting higher prices per night than we'd ever seen. And we had to worry about the long terms with the eviction moratorium. So at that point, we were like, okay, you know what? We were doing the right thing, having more than one type, because no matter what happens, we're covered. So I like that security. Yeah,
I definitely agree. Was there ever a point, when you got started that you were, scared like this wasn't going to work out when you made that leap, you left your job, were you concerned to make that move when you were first getting started?
No, because I hated my job more than I was scared.
Fair enough.
And I'd recently gotten my real estate license so I could do our own deals, because my husband is, as New Yorkers tend to be, difficult for Southerners to deal with sometimes. So I got my license.
You said it.
Yeah. So I got my license to do our deals, but then I started getting clients kind of organically. People would say like, oh, how much are you making on that cabin? I want one. Help me find one and then teach me how to do it. And then the short-term shop was kind of born. So the short-term shop is a brokerage, or it's like a team within the brokerage of EXP. I have to say that or else I get in trouble. And
got it.
So we're a short-term rental specific real estate team, and we've got offices in 15 markets. And if you want to buy a short-term rental with us in any of the 15 markets that we operate in, we'll help you get it, do all that. And we'll teach you how to manage it while you're still under contract, so that when closing day rolls around, you already know what you're doing and you're off to the races. And so
Got it.
anyway,
Good
I
stuff.
wasn't that
Nice.
scared because we had not only some income coming in from the rentals, but also because I switched careers basically into real estate full time.
Got it. Yeah, I recently actually met one of the board members of EXP.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, it's amazing what they've done with that whole group. It's pretty wild.
I'm actually coming to New York with them on Tuesday. Our team is the top producing team at EXP to do the NASDAQ closing bell ceremony.
Oh, that's really awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got it's amazing what they've grown into, and I think they have the most like agents in the country, right, or something like that. Something wild.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, really cool. Well, shout out to you for being in the top there. No surprise, Avery. Well, good stuff. I mean, when did you realize that? Because it seemed like it was pretty quick. Like, when did you realize, like, wow, I made the right move. Like, I'm like onto something. This is going to work. It seemed like it was almost like immediate.
It was pretty quick. Yeah, it was within like a year and a half that we were like, okay, this is like a real thing here. Let's jump in.
Yep, got it. And what? So I guess why? So folks come to you. Let's talk about the short term shop. Like folks come to you and you basically just help them on short term investing. Like what do you provide? Like why would someone come to you there, and how would you work with them if they came to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're planning to buy a short term rental in any of the 15 markets that we work in, which are all like top regional drivable vacation, like desirable places to buy short term rentals, then, you're going to have an agent anyway. So, you might as well have an agent who specializes in short term rentals, understands how they work, owns short term rentals themselves. And then also, we teach all of our clients how to manage it from everything from how to set up your Airbnb and Vrbo listings to how to use and set up the property management software that'll make your life so much easier, all the way down to helping them source their local cleaners, handymen, etc. We do all that for free for the exact same price that the Aunt Susie agent who doesn't know anything about short-term rentals is getting paid to do the transaction. So we've just got a really big value add there with the education piece.
That's really cool. And I always wonder too, like, if I was looking at something, a short-term rental, in Florida in a vacation area, I live in New York, how are you just using a property management company, to like, are there specialized services that are set up now? If you got people coming in and out every few days, like what does that look like? How do you really manage that? I always felt like that would be such a pain. But like anything in business, if you have a process around it, I'm sure it's not. So just curious.
Yeah, you really just need a good cleaner and a good handyman. And then you need a Wi-Fi smart lock, Wi-Fi thermostat, and like a Ring doorbell camera or floodlight camera to just kind of keep an eye on things. And other than that, everything is within the property management software. Like it will automatically schedule when somebody books your house, it will automatically put it on your cleaner's calendar. And you can set up all kinds of automated messages to answer any questions that they could possibly ask without you having to sit there and like type it out. So it is really, really streamlined and automated. Although automated does not mean it's set it and forget it. You do have to pay attention. A lot of people make that mistake, though. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I thought this was not
I don't
going
have to do anything."
Yeah, like there's nothing that is truly passive. Like even long-term rentals, you still have to kind of manage your property manager. So unfortunately, I don't think there's really anything we can all do to just lay on the couch and watch Law and Order the rest of our lives without having to at least look at something. But it is, you
How
can
boring
manage,
does that sound?
yeah, you can manage it, from the beach or the bar or wherever you want to be. But you do still have to pay attention to it.
Of course, just like
Yeah.
anything else. It makes
Yeah.
complete sense. That's really cool. The software sounds, amazing. And if I'm hearing you right, literally someone can come to you, buy their short-term property through you, you'll help them find it, but you'll help them basically set all that up and get that moving.
Yep. Pretty much.
That's like a no-brainer. Like everybody should be coming to you. If you're watching this right now and you want to get into the short-term rental game, you have to go see Avery and her team. It makes like, how would you not, right?
Some people don't.
Well, shame on them. That's awesome. Well, I mean, you got a great book out. What is, I guess the book is Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, which I love. How could someone go find that book and learn more, about you?
Yeah, you can get on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, all those fun places. And then you can also, I've got a weekly podcast as well called The Short Term Show, where you can also get a lot of information. And then follow us on Instagram at The Short Term Shop. And we've got all of our, any classes coming up or anything like that, contact information right there.
So that's good stuff. Definitely go check out Avery. And just curious, Avery, like where do you, I like to say, where do you go from here? But we say, where do you grow from here?
This year, so we're actually under contract on a 64 unit multi. So
Nice.
seeing how that goes. I think that our next one might be our next short-term rental might be out west. So keep an eye on the social media for that. I'm not exactly sure what market it will be yet, but I know we do want like a Rocky Mountain property. So trying to find a market that works well for that.
Good stuff. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
much luck there. I wish you nothing but success in closing this nice, big deal. 64 units is pretty awesome. It'll be a nice addition to your already amazing portfolio. So really good stuff. I appreciate you being on the show and sharing. And again, if you're looking to get into the short-term rental game, you need to reach out to Avery Carl and our team at the short-term rental. I'm sorry, the short-term shop,
Yep.
and get connected. Make sure you follow her. Check out her book. Like I say, it's always, I've learned over the years from learning from others that are already making happen and doing it and winning, in an industry. So make sure you do the same so you can avoid mistakes that I'm sure Avery made along the way. Awesome. Well, thanks again. Thanks for being on. Keep growing and keep doing what you're doing. Thanks a lot, Avery.
Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. Be well.
You too.